Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today we're covering the Adult Swim series, Primal.
Created and directed by Gennedy Tartakovsky, this adult animated series follows a caveman and a dinosaur who work together, to survive the deadly world after they both lose their families.
Yeah, that's a happy thought. Before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification button to see updates on future podcasts and multiple videos.
And it's the first combined action, sci-fi, horror animated series from Cartoon Network Studios.
Okay.
And William Street.
Yes. So we ended up hearing about this series from our friend Isaiah Garza, and it was a while after season 1 had finished. And we kept seeing images of this pop up on Twitter, people talking on YouTube, and they were just really fascinated with the show because there are so many just not good shows or really asinine shows or shows are for ones who have low IQs, and when they had Primal, they were just all over the show because they finally had a serious action cartoon because you really hadn't seen one in years. The last one was either Troll Hunters or Voltron, and before then it was even longer. So we actually went to our service and finally watched the whole first season of the series.
Yes. And can't say that I was not surprised at not only the tone and how the way it was written and drawn, the characters were able to convey a lot, but also the violence level.
Yeah, it can be a lot. There are some episodes where there's little to none, and there are some where it's just gratuitous, and it's like it kind of, the balance changes depending on the episode.
Yeah, and the first episode was hard hitting because, as you mentioned, both, what's his name?
Is Spear and
the dinosaur Fang. Spear and Fang both lose their families, and you see what happens.
Yeah, and it's not like it's inferred; it's on screen.
And I was stunned. I was so stunned that I didn't watch the second episode.
Yeah, me either. It was like, oi.
Oh, it's so cute. Oh,
the
he
baby
likes
dinosaurs.
them. Oh, and then all of a sudden they're dead, and it's like,
oh
what?
Gosh. It's like,
yes, I know it isn't real people.
But like, it kind of was just a shock. Like, it just came out of nowhere. Like, okay, I guess the title is true to the show.
Yeah, I know they're not real characters. I know they're not real people, but still, it was a shock to see. And I guess if you know Gennady Tartakovsky and kind of know his mind and the way he thinks and the way he's hinted at probably wanting to create something like this for a while, even with something like this appearing in Dexter's Lab.
Right.
Symbiotic Titan was a hint of the darkness to go toward. I guess I shouldn't really have been surprised, but it was.
Right. I guess we're just surprised that it got graphic, because you're right, Symbiotic Titan was closer to Adult Swim than Cartoon Network, but they put it on CN. But the tone of that one felt like it was Adult Swim without being gratuitous or vulgar. And this one, he had nothing was held back. He got to show as much as he wanted, tell a story he wanted, and even garner a second season out of it. And I think one of the more standout things about it is that the whole first season, there's no dialogue. You hear animal sounds. There's a couple voice actors in here, but they make like animal sounds or their roars or their grunts. Right.
Season 1 and 2.
Right. Or their roars, their grunts, their animal sounds. At the end of the season, one character actually ends up speaking a whole nother language. But the whole thing is done to just show you what happens. Literally, the entire show is show, don't tell. And it actually worked really well because you were really invested in the story, even without the dialogue.
Now, it has multiple executive producers, including Tartakovsky, Brian A. Miller, Jennifer Pelfrey, Rob Sorsher, Sam Register,
yes,
season 2, Mike Lazo, and Keith Crawford. So there were a lot of people that were involved in the making of this. So what seems to us when we watch it like something was really simple, as you said, consisting of some grunts and noises, some animation, really took a lot to produce.
Right.
And again, it does come through and the bevy of emotions and stories and things that comes through without anyone saying a word. It's well done in that sense that you can watch very few things now that are silent and you get everything that's meant to convey, and this series did it in season 1.
Right. And I think the first season was about 10 episodes long. Not really long at all.
It was released 5 episodes first and then the second 5 later.
Right. And each one is different from the last. There's never a point where they're repeating the same storyline you just saw a couple episodes ago. And they travel across the Earth in their version of what the Earth looked like during the Stone Age. And they also hint at evolution being canonical in this universe, because the second season they actually get into that in a really graphic way, but in this one they hint towards it with Spears' design. Like when he yells and moves and things, he's got the characteristics of an ape, and you can see the fangs and things. And when you see what used to be other cavemen, you see other primates, you can tell they both have kind of similar traits to each other. So I do like that they kind of had it in there without it just being like hitting you over the head like this is what we have, this is what you gotta believe or anything. It's just this is how the universe is set up and it's fictional. That's it.
And it's described as being set in an anachronistic vision of prehistory, portraying extinct dinosaurs, ice age mammals, and early humanoids, all coexisting with post-metallurgy Homo sapiens
Right.
in a single time period, incorporating many elements of science fi, fantasy, horror, action, adventure. That's a mouthful.
Right. And I guess a lot more authors and creators are getting this new trend of combining a bunch of different genres into one, a lot of different elements, which we started with Cannon Busters having Western, sci-fi, mecha, and everything. Now we're getting sci-fi, fantasy, history, and everything now combined into one, and clearly it does well. And I guess the trick is to make it make sense, because a lot of people sometimes have these shows with comedy in them and they're not funny, where they're just throwing in random humor, random things, stuff they think sounds cool because they like it, and it doesn't work. But you can tell at Primal they were having things that really worked for the story, and it didn't try to throw in something you knew would be unplausible for this world. Especially with the designs of the dinosaurs, some of them having the feathers, like they've proven they've had, and how they've looked in their style.
Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you learned about this from Isaiah.
Yes. And he had watched it and actually posted about it both on Twitter and on YouTube. And I had never seen it. I just remember there being tons of advertisements, and this was a huge thing at the time because Adult Swim really didn't have an event like this big outside of Toonami. And the fact that it was an action cartoon was another reason why people got into it. And I think one of the things that personally resonated with me is not just the animation itself, it's also the sound quality. Because there was a point when they had an episode where they were in a rainforest, and it was a while before they got to the action, and the sound was so unique and crisp, it almost sounded like you were watching an IMAX series. It sounded that good where you felt like you were there and you were seeing it come to life rather than just being animated. And he's such a huge fan of the show that I decided to watch it, and I told you about it, and can say that it was definitely worth a watch, even with its bits and episodes of violence that we didn't care for. It was a great watch, and it was invested each episode. We just had to watch maybe one a day because it was so much. It was 20 minutes because some episodes they didn't have it at all and some they did. So there was a point where we said, okay, we'll do one a day in the daytime.
So the first season that we're covering had 3 main characters that spoke until that, I think the last episode where you heard a couple of scientists speak.
Right.
But for the majority of it, it was just Spear and Fang.
Yes.
And the relationship they end up developing, you could call it codependence, you could call it symbiotic.
Yeah, a new kind of symbiotic.
Right. And out of tragedy that's happened to both of them. And again, for me, what really made it interesting is so much that was conveyed without a word being said. How involved you became in the story and how invested I became in the characters, and who thought I would be cheering on a prehistoric dinosaur who lost her babies,
Right.
wanting things to go well, in addition to a human.
Right.
And it was just something like I've personally never seen. In a lot of the shows that I've watched over the decades, this is something really new and a standout. And critics loved it. It got quite a bit of
Acclaim.
praise.
Okay,
Yeah, acclaim and praise for it being something different.
Yes. And it definitely was for Adult Swim's lineup that usually just had much older shows, or they would have shows that were for a really unique, specific audience that liked the strange, the obscure, the bizarre, and that was supposed to be humorous for a group of people. Primal was definitely something different, and it was probably the other highlight of Toonami, aside from the anime, because they started trying to combine it where you get the anime and then you ended off with Primal, which
was fine at first.
Yeah.
But after the 5th and 6th to go around, it was like, stop.
Yeah, because people were actually getting tired of it because the story's over and they kept trying to replay it over and over and over again, especially 1 in the morning with the content. It's like, are you sure you're going to have nightmares watching that and you're going to have them go to sleep on this?
Well, Primal received critical acclaim for the animation, the storytelling, the music, the emotional depth, horror elements, and the editing. And it got 3 Outstanding Individual Achievement Awards in animation from the Emmys.
Wow,
Which
yeah,
was
it
a
deserves
first for him, yeah.
It definitely earned it. And when you got to the last episode, like you said, there was no dialogue, and they actually meet this woman, Mira, and she was speaking a whole nother language, and there was no translation, so clearly it was still taken like you were watching a silent episode. You couldn't understand what she was saying, but they had the images up on screen, so you could understand what the story she was telling. And the way it ended, Spirit finally spoke, and we're like, oh my gosh, she can speak!
It says that she was speaking Arabic.
Arabic? Okay, and I guess they didn't need to translate because, like, we'll just show you what she's saying. Because the second season, as you said, more characters introduced, and they actually go outside of this Land of the Lost type place and actually get to civilization. They start having Vikings, like you said, scientists. They're in, look like maybe 1800s now, and that land was like lost to time. So now you're actually getting characters with more dialogue, whether it be in other languages or English, and that kind of changed it a little bit next season. It was weird because you were so used to it just being the story, but in some cases it did work.
Definitely. And we're looking forward to, at some point, seeing season 2.
Right.
But we know it's going to be different. I think we watched the first episode of season 2.
The first couple, yeah.
So we know it's really different in tone and scope.
Right.
Versus the first season.
And we heard it was bittersweet and gets towards the end, so that is also a reason why we're kind of like, oh no, what is going to happen here?
But I'm sure however it ends up going, it's going to be memorable for us for season 2.
Right.
And I don't know if... Oh yeah, there's going to be a season 3.
Oh,
It's
really?
officially announced in June of this year.
Oh, well, never mind. There is more to come. Oh, wait, also quickly, Tom Kenny's in it. He's doing some monkey noises, but he's still in it. He still put him in it, even though he makes noises, he's still in it.
And of course, you knew him. So
Like, yeah, it's Tom Kenny making more noises.
So if you're looking for something that's different, that's set in an atmosphere of something that's familiar yet something unique, then this is something you should watch. Again, it does have a lot of violence in it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of animated blood. So
yeah,
I mean,
and it can be really gory and graphic. That's why we did one a day.
So if that's something you don't care to watch, then Primal isn't for you, whether season 1 or season 2. However, that being said, if you have a strong stomach, or this is the type of genre that you like, including the horror genre, then this is something you should check out.
Right.
It is really captivating series. Again, conveying so much with barely anything being said.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates, movie videos, your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. And quickly, I wanted to mention that a lot of the animals, the dinosaurs, the mammals, and others were based on actual animals, but they also created some for this particular series that didn't exist. So before you possibly watch it and you're going to see if it's accurate, there's some accuracy, but also some creativeness on the side of Tartakovsky.
Right.
So,
thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainments, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.